Hi everyone, I'm Alex Ferreiro, Business Development Manager of DayOne, the specialized service of CaixaBank created 5 years ago for tech companies and also venture capital investors. It's a pleasure to be here today with Borja Breña, Principal at Nauta Capital. It's a pan-European venture capital firm that invests in early-stage B2B tech companies. And also Cristina Vila, CEO and founder of Cledara. It's a company located in London that helps the teams to manage, to control, to understand the subscription platforms they use to grow their business. Thank you very much for this amazing panel.
Thank you, Alex. Well, welcome everybody to this chat, Fireside chat between Borja Breña, myself, Principal at Nauta Capital, and Cristina. Hello, Cristina.
Hola.
How are you?
Hola, Borja. Encantada de estar aquí, como siempre.
Good. So we're doing English?
English, yes.
Let's move to English. Come on. First of all, thank you very much for you guys being here, and thank you to DayOne for inviting us to their stand. I think it's been very good to be here, Mobile World Congress. Now finally back to in real life events. So very happy to see the vibe. Exciting to see lots of friendly faces and maybe faces that we'll get to know soon. So, Cristina, what do you feel about being back on a non-remote event? Just no Zooms anymore.
Yeah, I mean, Zoom's still there, unfortunately, but that's for other things now. But it really is great to be able to meet people in person and put, real sit down with people essentially here and have a coffee and have a nice chat. So nothing replaces the, human interaction.
Yeah, we were saying before that all the video conferences are great for maybe like a first call, first touch point. But when you want to create relationships, nurture relationships, which is what we're doing here between startups and potential employees or potential investors, there's nothing like a coffee, right? Like a face-to-face coffee. And what do you think?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think, in the end, we have a long relationship now that started in one of these conferences a few years ago. And then obviously we had to do a lot of our ongoing relationship over Zoom. But I think that, definitely being able to be face-to-face and having a coffee with someone is great.
Excellent. So let's start with the conversation. So first of all, first question, who is Cristina Vila? Give me like a couple of minutes about your life.
So quick background, I'm from Reus originally, but then I moved to London very early on, straight after university. Worked in financial services all my life. I was at the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. There I moved to a fintech startup where we were building a neobank for emerging markets, and there I was running the middle and back office operations. And that is where I had the problem that we are solving today with Cledara. It's where I really got that idea of what I wanted to build. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I just didn't know where to focus my efforts. So 3.5 years ago, then I decided to start my journey as an entrepreneur.
Excellent. So what exactly is Cledara? What was the idea? What was the pain that you found that you wanted to solve?
So in this previous fintech company, we were using a lot of different software subscriptions, and I was responsible of keeping track of all of them, and that was an absolute pain, which meant that I had my little spreadsheet, and I had to constantly go to the finance team and ask them, what is this? And obviously that is not something that companies can scale with, and everybody wants to use more and more software. And therefore, I just saw that there was a need in the market for a solution to help companies discover, buy, manage, and cancel all the software subscriptions that they use in the business.
Don't you like Excel? Is Excel not enough?
Excel is not enough when you have 200 different applications being bought by everyone in the company, and definitely not enough.
Actually, we are seeing many Excel killers, let's say, like lots of companies that want to replace Excel for specific applications, specific use cases. So what exactly made you believe that you could actually beat Excel and actually move users from having a long list of subscriptions to a software system like Cledara? How did you perform the customer discovery at the very beginning of your journey?
So I would say that at the beginning of my journey, maybe I was a little bit naive, which I think is what everybody needs when you first want to jump into, starting your own company. But I really, thought that, well, Excel was not enough. Excel was just for me, and I could send it on an email, and then people would update something, but very quickly it was out of date, and it would not give me any information back, really. So then the thought there was, well, we need to create a solution that can not only help me keep track, but can also help me take better decisions, can help me with all that information that I'm collecting, not only for me, but for the rest of the organization. How can it help me optimize the software that I'm using, discover new products within the company so that I stop duplicating products? And yeah, definitely you cannot do that on an Excel sheet. So that's why I thought that we needed to build what we are building at Cledara.
So you're talking about we now. So yes, you guys are 40 people these days, but at the very beginning it was just you, right? You were a solo founder at the beginning. So how do you do these first steps of not just discovering the client, but also trying to figure out in your own mind, just like how to solve it? Did you have other people you could talk to? Were they customers? Were they other entrepreneurs? How did you do that at the very beginning when you're just a solo founder? That's a very difficult thing to do.
So it started with a lot of whiteboards at home where I was just writing absolutely everywhere, like the whole apartment was covered in my scribbles as to what it should be like. And then I was also talking to some other founders. In London, we were based in level 39 on the previous company I was. So I spoke to some people there, like, how are you managing this? What is the friction that you are experiencing? So then with my own experience, but then also with the shared experience of some people, I came with the first ideas to what we could build. And then, of course, the tendency is to think of something that's already massive, which of course with very limited resources early on you cannot do. So then I went through this journey of talking to a lot of people, so that was in London. So I managed to plug into the Techstars network there, and I talked to a lot of mentors that helped me think through where is really the essence of the value that I could build in a super MVP way. Like, what is the minimum expression of Cledara that I can build? And then I started cutting parts of the product and then finishing with a very small piece that then I went and built.
So basically, part of the beginning of your journey was understanding the client or the job to be done by the customer that wanted to hire you for. But the second one is to focus, and refocus on the very minimal expression of your product. And so you have a tech background or more a business background?
Business and operations background.
Okay, so then how did you move from these post-its all around your house to the first MVP that you could have somebody operating or filling in or something like testing?
Yeah, so here first I taught myself how to use Sketch so that I could then make the first designs, because if I just go with words to someone, then maybe it's not as easy. So I made the first designs of what the application should look like, this very essence of the product. And then I talked to, in this case, a development agency, so that they would help me put that MVP to market. And then I told them that for me it was very, very important to do it very quickly, because I wanted to have that real customer feedback as soon as possible. And within a month of that, we had the MVP in market, which was very good, because on the first day we also got a couple of customers that they are still today with us 3.5 years after. And they've always been a great source of input for how we continue developing the product.
That's amazing. I mean, the fact that you can get some service provider to produce quickly rather than charging more hours, so they understand, how to, take things to market. That was a very lucky strike. Yeah.
Well, I agreed a fixed price and a time like we had a
Best way.
SaaS talk coming up, actually, and I told them I want to be able to launch the product on stage on this date. So we have 1 month. Can you do it? And they said, yes. Can you do it for this much? Because that's what I can pay for it. And they said, yes. Okay, then let's go for it. And
Excellent.
It was a great experience, actually.
Excellent. So that things can get done if you put the pressure. That's great. So one of my questions was how to get to customer 1, and then later how to get to employee 1. Which one came first? Which one was it? A full-time employee 1, or was it, as you said, you got 2 customers on the very first day of launching?
Yes. So for me, it was customers before employees, actually. So I got 2 customers on day 1, and I think maybe the good thing there is that since day 1 we had really been very vocal about the company. Like we had really been out there sharing that we existed, even though there was almost nothing. And at SaaS Talk we managed to win the best SaaS startup of the year that day when we were only like 3 months old, and we were literally launching the product there, and it's from there that we found those first 2 customers.
I mean, clearly you got employee after clients because the pain was clear. I mean, customers wanted your product.
Yes, yeah.
Like way before you started thinking about this. So actually it was, so do you think that you need to have a market ready for your product to be successful, or that you can nurture the market to make it bigger, or to make the pain more visible for the customers to buy your product? What do you think that comes first, the egg or the chicken?
So in our case, it was definitely that we had to make the market aware of the problem, because while a lot of people were using SaaS, a lot of people didn't know that they were having a problem by having a lot of SaaS products in the company. So we've always been out there telling about the problem of software. And then, for example, at SaaS Talk, we were with a lot of SaaS companies there, telling them, hey, here is a product that will help close all those software products that you don't use in your business. And we thought that that would be quite controversial, but actually software companies want it as well. They say, we actually want customers that will use our products. We don't want customers that are not using our product, that they don't find value to our product. So from there, we started always raising that awareness. And when we tell companies, hey, so let's say when we started 3 years ago, and we were telling companies, you have a problem with your SaaS probably, they were saying, no, we only have 10 products. We don't have a problem. But then they would go back to their companies, check, and they had like 25, 30. So they could see that they had more than what they thought. And today the problem we are talking of, 200 different software applications in a company. And people need ways of managing it. And when we talk to those companies, they always say, yes, I totally get those symptoms that you are telling me about. So now I know that a solution exists that until today maybe they didn't know it existed, and then they buy the product. So
what you're saying is that the pain should be there. It might not be visible. So
yeah.
If it's visible, everything, everybody is happy and customers come to you, but probably other competitors will show up. If the pain exists and it's not visible, that's your opportunity to be vocal about it, and maybe launch a product without that many competitors. What I think may be a bit more difficult is to create the pain, or like either you're Apple or probably you cannot do it. But basically you were right in the middle, so it's great. And so you got this great traction at the very beginning, so very exciting week for you, I guess, back in the SaaS Talk 2018. 18. And then you get back home to London and you say, okay, this is actually, we're on. The show is, like, how do you feel? How do you decide that, yes, I am onto something, let's make it bigger?
Well, the minute you get the first customer, then that's real, right? Like now it's like, okay, now we need to support this and we need to make sure that we continue growing it. But also the first moment when I realized that was real is when we raised the first angel money, right? And that was 1 month after deciding that I wanted to build Cledara. And so I was talking to some of these people from the Texas network, that they were giving me a lot of feedback on my ideas, and then one of them said, well, actually, I would love to invest in what you are going to build. And the day they wrote that check, that was like, wow, now that is, again, like one of those big moments that really commit to wanting to deliver what
you have a fiduciary duty. You have a duty. It's like, oops, the burden of the duty. Okay, I understand. But let's be honest. I mean, yes, you got your angel check, and you basically have a duty, in front of that angel. But angel investing, if the product doesn't work, there's no market, and clearly there's no way forwards. Angels accept that they might have, fail. And it's not a problem. It's not a problem, and that's it. That's life. When you have a customer, suddenly it's a different story. It's like, oops, I have to deliver, right? You have to deliver, you have to support. And what do you think when you have an employee number 1 or 2? You right now have salaries to pay every month. How did you feel? And how did you engage the first one? How do you convince that first employees to come on board when you told them, maybe I'm not paying you in 3 months' time? Or we don't know.
Well, here we have one of our first employees of Cledara, actually. And, in the end, it's a passion thing. Like I think sometimes you are not even recruiting, but you are recruiting. And, you are talking to someone, you are sharing what you are doing. And then you see that the other person's eyes light up. And same happens with you. You are like, well, this person could really help us advance the company massively. And then it's like, it might just happen. And it's a big responsibility because obviously you know that as an early stage company, you may fail. That's probably what will most likely happen in the majority of companies at early stages. And you are asking people to trust their professional careers to your idea and your dreams. And for those that follow, for me, it's a big responsibility to make sure that we give them all the opportunities that they want and they want to take within the company, because in the end, we trust them that they can bring that full value to advancing us.
Excellent. So now you have client number 1, you have employee number 1, you have a gig that's like starting. And what do you do next? Do you focus on products, on understanding the client better, on monetizing? What do you do next?
So for me, product has always been the center of everything. And obviously with product comes the customer, right? So you cannot build a product in a vacuum, which means that you need to always be talking to customers and to people that may be prospective customers and to anyone that is willing to challenge your ideas. I think that's for me something that Brad, my co-founder, told me very early on. He said, Cristina, just have like your KPI early on when you don't have employees, customers, or even product is talk to as many people as possible. Like just go out and talk to people. And because that's how you accelerate your learnings and you see how people perceive what you are saying. And that's very, very, brings a lot of value. And then the question was? Just
focus on the product or monetization of the client. What do you do?
Exactly. So after all those conversations, then you get the product right, hopefully right, at least the one that the first customers are willing to buy. And then for me, it was still product, like really build a product that people will want and pay for. And only once you start seeing those signs of now there is enough value that I'm not just getting some customers by accident, But if I was to now start selling, people would buy. And then
So
at that
the
moment you
minimum
start.
lovable product, let's say.
Yeah, yes.
Understand. So two things. Number one, to iterate as quickly as possible by talking to as many potential clients or existing clients as possible, so you can accelerate the learning in order to get to minimum lovable product as soon as possible. Okay.
Yep.
So good recipe. Did it work for you guys? What happened? I mean, this obviously
It did work for us.
it's a rhetoric
so
question. I mean,
yeah, no, it definitely worked for us. So we built the product for the first, or we were super focused on product for the first year. And then it was only after the first year that we say, okay, now we can start charging for it. And then, based on the feedback from paying customers, which is also different from feedback from non-paying customers, then you get to continue really building on those features that your paying customers will find the most value, so that then you can eventually increase the value or the price of the product itself.
okay, so that's the way when you start monetizing and retaining the monetization. And then you gear in towards, probably you had just an angel check, so maybe at that time you have probably a pre-seed round, and you've made a seed round with us and Nauta. I would like to discuss how do you create the story, to convince these early investors that that this is a company. It's not going to be like 1 or 5 or 10 people, but 40, 100, 400,000 people. How do you build a story?
So our story was always based around the problem that customers have, and then obviously the size of the problem. Like, it's big, right? Every company in the world is going to use SaaS if they are not doing it already. And the more, the bigger these companies get, the more they spend, the more the software. So we've always built it around that. Like, what's the product that we are building, and what is that future that we envisage, and why it's important that we do something about it today, right? Because what I always think is we are somehow privileged, like we live a little bit in the future already, and therefore we have the opportunity to build those things today that will help the majority tomorrow. So it's being able to paint and explain that vision very clearly, and why are you the best placed to be able to execute on it. I think having a great idea is great, but it comes down to execution, right? You need to be able to bring it to life, and that's the hardest part.
Okay, so my question was, next question was, what helped you win these rounds? Vision, metrics, team, founder market team fit. So what you're talking about the vision, number one, that you could build something big, and second, execution, to be the first one to get there, right? Like to be the winner. Understood.
And for that, you need the team, of course, yes.
Okay.
So that's something that we definitely, we have a very strong team, I'm proud to say, and it's something that every startup or every company for that matter should consider. Like, always, you need to know which type of company you are building. Therefore, you need to know which type of people you want around you to be able to make your company succeed and your vision come to life. And you need to be able to not compromise on talent. Like, people are the most important thing that you have in the company. Like, even more important than any technology that you may use, because people are the essence of the company. And we've always kept the bar very high as to who joins the company, because the better the talent that you have, the better talent you can continue attracting. And that's very powerful for companies.
Excellent. So we'll dig deeper in a future question on how you interview, because it's very interesting, your hiring process. But how do you start building this team? Do you start with the junior staff, the people who are actually, performing tasks? Are you starting with the, VP, C-level that is going to attract other talent because he's been there, done that? Do you start with like middle management so that you can potentially promote? How do you do it?
So I don't think there is a one recipe for everyone. In our case, Brad and I were doing pretty much everything that was not coding. And therefore, the first thing we had to do at some point was, okay, where is the biggest blocker, right? Because we became the blockers of the company. So one big blocker I was, for example, was on attending our customers. Like if a customer wanted to sign up, there was no one to respond in good time because I was fundraising or I was on product things. And therefore, we brought in very early on Gerard that helped us with all the customer support part of things. And that was massive for the company. And then very quickly, he grew to being to managing the customer support team and hiring people. And he was very young at the time, but he rose completely to that challenge. And he's doing an amazing job at the moment for us. So in this case, we hired someone on the junior side that very quickly grew onto a mid management position because we saw that potential there when we were hiring. Then the other one was, for example, on the marketing side, on the sales side, right? Again, we need to really get the customer informed of what we're doing, and we need to be able to reach out to them. So we then hired, Pablo here to help us with all the marketing things that we're doing in the company. And then also we hired Oscar, our head of sales, that was coming from SaaStock, actually. And he, again, he's done an amazing job at really helping us take care of our customers, right? And I think that's really a priority for the company. Make sure that customers have the best service possible, whether it's before they buy or after they buy the product.
Understood. So basically you were looking for what was the bottleneck at that point and trying to remove that bottleneck.
Exactly.
Not so much, because there are many times that there's an investor comes in with the money and they quickly say, oh, you need to hire like 3 VPs and 5 managers and grow this division or not. Maybe that's not the appropriate thing to do for the company at that time. So how do you know where you need to put your resources to hire, to build a team, and which function? How do you assess that?
Yeah, so in our case, we can sense these pressure points, and therefore we know if those need to be addressed by either a senior person with more experience, or if it can be addressed by someone more junior that we can then help and mentor through and help grow. And sometimes you have cases like we had with Rob, our CMO, where he kind of fell from the skies, and we just couldn't say no. Like he was super experienced, right? Like former international, he was leading international marketing for PayPal before, and he came to Spain. He used to live in the Bay Area, and he was very interested in joining the company. And we were like, well, is it really the right moment for a CMO and for someone of his level of experience? Like it was Pablo at the time and Brad doing some of the marketing things, and it's like, well, do we really need this? We were only 7 people. But he was just so great, and he was really willing to get his hands dirty and almost, do whatever. If I need to write a blog post, I will. If I need to send emails to customers, I will. And he did. So sometimes you also find these, top executive talent that are willing to just do the whole journey again in an accelerated way. And this can also superpower your company, right? So I would say don't think that you shouldn't do it because it's too early. I think it goes down very much to the personality of the person that you are bringing in. And if you think that they can bring that value, even if the full structure of the business is not there.
So if they can roll up their sleeves, then they are welcome. And it was such a great opportunity. You need to take it with both hands. Basically, you cannot let it go. That's for sure.
Exactly.
And so back to the hiring process. You say that you need to, obviously, is the most important resource in a company, talent. How do you ensure that the talent average goes up, or at least it stays the same and not down? over time? Because the first 10 employees, everybody says that they are key, and you have time to speak to them, to convince them. They join because of the vision and the mission rather than the salary. How do you continue maintaining this level of engagement and quality from 10 to 40?
So we are we are all very passionate about our mission at Cledara, and we have very strong values in the company. So we always make sure that when we are doing the interview process, we hire by the values of the company. And we have a quite long, I would say, interview process in the sense that you always talk to the hiring manager, then you need to do a take-home exercise. So we ask, for the person to be committed to joining. Then there is always an interview with either Brad or myself. So one of the founders, we always speak, and this is mostly is this person a fit for the team? Because we find that very important. And then we always do reference checks. We always call the references. We want to make sure that how that person contributed beyond the work itself, right? How was the interaction of that person in the team? Because we are not just the work we do, we are the person in the company and how we interact with everyone else. And what we see, and look, sometimes we get it wrong, or sometimes we hire someone that's not a fit in the end. But what I can say is that usually it's very noticeable. So once the person starts, if for some reason there is actually not a fit, within a week or two, you can say that person actually doesn't fit, and eventually that person ends up leaving the company, unfortunately. But it's quite clear, and I think you only achieve that if you hire by values and obviously high performance. Like, we are a very high performing team, and we do demand a lot. But that also we also give a lot of opportunities then to those that want to take that responsibility.
So you're talking about values, and I guess connected to that is culture. How do you share the culture and the values in a fast-growing company, and even more in these remote working days that we have? You have an office in London, Barcelona, probably people are doing remote. How do you manage to actually keep a cohesive culture at this level?
Well, what helps you keep the cohesive culture is the values, is the underlying values, and then is living them. Like, you can write them up, of course, in Notion, or you can send them on Slack every day if you want to, but that won't mean that your company is living it. It has to really be by all the little interactions that the leadership has, or people amongst themselves, like, helping each other, helping the customer, always being very open to communication. Like, communication and transparency is one of our values, so we want to make sure that anything that happens is discussed openly and safely, and always with the idea of, okay, it's not to punish you, but it's actually to learn how can we do better next, right? And because in the end, we do want people that try and sometimes fail. But as long as you've done it with care and thinking that that was the best thing for the company, well, there is no big deal. We'll sort it and let's learn from it. So I think you just have to be consistent, and then that permeates the whole organization.
Understood. Being consistent is good. Excellent. Thank you. Thank you to Cristina for your time, for your answers. Thank you, everybody, for being here with us. Thank you to DayOne for inviting us to their stand here at the 4 Years From Now Mobile World Congress. I hope you guys enjoy the chat, and if you have a bunch of millions of dollars, maybe Cristina, maybe
I'll put them to work.
put them to work. Exactly. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.